What's up, friends? Rob Sevilla here with Agape Insurance and Financial Group in Tupelo, Mississippi. And today I am with Brandon Reid, Vice President of Sales with one of the carriers that we work a lot with, Heartland National. And today we're going to be talking about the importance of why you should consider getting a hospital indemnity plan. I like to use very layman's terms. A gap plan is what I call it, to help fill in some of the gaps. And we're going to talk about the different scenarios of how a HIP or a hospital indemnity plan could be the right fit for you. So Brandon, will you just say what's up to everyone real quickly?
Yes. Hello, everybody. And thank you for your time.
Absolutely. So Brandon, what I want to do, if you don't mind, is maybe just let's start from the beginnings, give them just a 30,000 foot view of what a hospital indemnity plan is. And then I would like to branch into some scenarios on where we could utilize that.
Wonderful. Yeah, Robin, thanks for having me. I think you'll find that I'm one of the most passionate people in the industry when it comes to hospital indemnity insurance. I feel like at a young age and early in my career, I was introduced to a product like this, and I really saw a wonderful fit for it, whether it be with Medicare or even in the under 65 health space. And what I found was, unfortunately, a lot of folks are, on one side of the fence or the other. And sometimes that can limit people, right? Somebody on a fixed income could be limited on what benefits they can afford, right? And what the hospital indemnity plan does for our clients is even those individuals on fixed incomes can now put themselves in a better position to where they're filling in a lot of the gaps, like you said, that they would have otherwise been exposed to if it were not for some type of supplemental health policy.
Sure. So let's branch into the Medicare side of things, right? You know, because we work together in different capacities, but with the Medicare Advantage side, what if someone today is considering or maybe on a Medicare Advantage currently, whether they're on disability Medicare or they're 65 or older, what are some benefits or how can a hospital indemnity plan help them?
Right. And I think where I see the value in the hospital indemnity here in this space is helping those folks who still want some major coverage for things like hospital exposures, in the event of a cancer diagnosis, or perhaps even in the event they needed to go in for an outpatient surgery or a skilled nursing visit. I think the hospital indemnity can help those individuals on Medicare Advantage plans still fill in some of those gaps that they would have been covered for on something like a Medicare Supplement Plan G. So if I can't afford a Medicare Supplement Plan G, but I still want hospital coverage, I'm able to get it through a plan like this. So rather than being limited to a Part C Medicare Advantage plan with all these holes in it, I actually have the ability to still obtain those extra benefits from Medicare Advantage, like dental, like vision, like hearing, and even some of the over-the-counter and transportation benefits that we're seeing on plans these days. But at the same time, I'm still able to get myself some coverage from the Part A exposures related to these plans, and even some of the other Part B exposures we talked about, like cancer.
Yeah, and I think it's very important to stop here just for a second, because if you're watching this, wherever you're watching this video, and you're considering going on a Medicare Advantage plan, or maybe you're on one now, Brandon, you know this, a lot of times people, they hear zero premium plan for most cases, right? But they don't understand all the gaps that are in the fine print. And I like to tell our clients that we work with that a hospital indemnity plan can shield you against things that maybe you don't even know that you could be responsible for. I know for most plans that I've seen, it's around $300 a day. I'm kind of rounding up the numbers here for that first 7 days in the hospital. So can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yes, and I'll add to that. I think with Medicare supplement plans, they do a great job, right? Exposures in the hospital, exposures on the Part B standpoint. But not everybody can afford a plan like that. So when it comes to Medicare Advantage, we're kind of trading the fact that we're not having to pay a monthly premium for more of a pay-as-you-go type plan. And that's great for a lot of people. But when it does come time to pay your bills, that can put people in a rough spot. So the hospital indemnity really just positions itself to fill those gaps, exactly like you talked about earlier. If they have a $300 copay for 7 days in the hospital, I can protect that client from $300 a day for the first 7 days in the hospital. And I think the most important thing an advisor can do with their client is sit down and make sure that the client understands how their plan works, whether it's the plan that they've had for several years or a plan that maybe they're starting in January. The most important thing that we should be doing with our clients is making sure they understand the ins and outs of their coverage and their options for covering some of those gaps.
Right. And you know this, we see the commercials on TV. Unfortunately, we see this all across the country where there's a lot of advisors don't do that. And I'm not knocking call centers, but even these people that get a plan through a call center, a lot of times it's not the best situation. And then you know this too, Brandon, a lot of times people just forget, right? We all forget. We don't remember half of what we were told, the next day. And so having this hospital indemnity plan can not only help protect against that inpatient copay, there's also an ambulance copay that you're very well aware of that can help protect against outpatient. I think you dealt with skilled nursing earlier, that a lot of people don't realize that, well, I'm not paying anything for it. But as you said, on the back end, we could get into some trouble if we don't have a hospital indemnity plan in place, correct?
Right. Yeah. And it's all the way up until your maximum out of pocket. So if we're dealing with a PPO plan, there's an in-network maximum and an out-of-network max. And we need our clients to make sure they understand what those exposures mean, right? And how we can protect ourselves in the event of hitting those maximum out-of-pocket costs.
Yeah, and in some states, like where I live, the maximum out-of-pocket one time was $7,500 for some of these plans. So, if you're watching this today, even though you're paying zero premium, you need to know what that back end is, because many of the clients, and you know this, Brandon, I'm preaching to the choir here, but many of our clients that we work with don't have that kind of money just laying around. And so to invest a little bit more into a hospital indemnity plan, or I like to say, put a little bit more skin in the game. Mm-hmm. It actually shields them and protects them and gives them some more comprehensive coverage. Would you agree?
Yeah, an added layer of protection, a safeguard.
Yeah. No, I definitely love that. So that's kind of a brief synopsis of the Medicare side. Anything else before we move on to the under 65 side?
Yeah, I think a couple key things to remember is these plans rates are not going to increase like you would see with a Medicare supplement policy, increasing almost every year at 4 or 5, maybe even 6% or more. With these hospital indemnity plans, they do have the ability to increase over time. However, they're first of all not going to increase as you age. So if you buy this policy at 64 years old, you'll pay the 64-year-old rate for the lifetime of the policy. In addition, another thing to remember is the loss ratios on these types of plans are much better than Medicare supplement plans, right? There are a lot smaller claims being filed and less claims being filed. So we don't see rate increases happen as much as we do with Medicare supplement plans. Honestly, this plan with our company has not taken an increase in over 10 years.
Wow.
So not to say it couldn't ever happen, but much less likelihood of it than you'd see on a Plan G or Plan F.
Yeah, and I made a note here, too, is can you talk about the GI period that you guys offer as well?
Absolutely. Can we talk about that for a second? It's important people know about this, because if agents aren't bringing it up, then unfortunately clients aren't learning about this added layer of protection. So at 64.5 to 65.5, everybody gets a guaranteed issue window. No health questions asked. You can get a hospital indemnity plan, and 6 out of 7 of the riders available on these plans with no health questions asked. The only insurance you'd have to ask some health questions to qualify for at this point would be the cancer rider. But again, a very wonderful time to first of all get on the plan, but also not just because of your health, but also because of the fact that it's more affordable at this time as well, and your rate will lock in at issue H.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring that up because if you're watching this today, is that you get an open enrollment window when you're new to Medicare that you can sign up for a plan, and you don't want to miss that open enrollment. Same thing where, especially if you're going to go on the Medicare Advantage side, you definitely don't want to miss this GI, or what we call guaranteed issue period, that Heartland is offering you, because it could make a huge difference down the road, especially, God forbid, if you had to go inpatient in the hospital or had some of these other scenarios happen. So let me ask you this too, Brandon, because I had another note down here. What about pre-existing conditions if we're outside? Because what if somebody's watching this today, if we're outside of that guaranteed issue period, and they're saying, well, I have some medical things going on, can I qualify for something like that?
Right. And it's as far as the 6-month pre-X goes, the 6-month pre-X applies to both individuals who qualify through guaranteed issue and individuals who qualify through our simplified issue underwriting process. So nobody escapes the 6-month pre-X. So all this means is if you've had a pre-existing condition that you've been treated or taking medications for, or even seeing a physician for within 6 months prior to your policy's effective date, you won't be paid any benefits on anything relating to those pre-existing conditions for the first 6 months, even for our folks qualifying through guaranteed issue. But to qualify for the plan through the simplified issue underwriting outside of our GI window, it's important to understand that the health questions are really looking at major illnesses and conditions like cancer, like heart attacks and stroke, COPD, emphysema, or conditions using oxygen and a nebulizer. So, of course, to see a full list of all of the health questions to qualify for a plan like this, be sure to consult with Agape and Rob's team over here in Mississippi. But definitely pretty lenient underwriting for the most part, unless you are dealing with some pretty serious health conditions.
Yeah, and I'll just share a quick story. We had some clients, and this is a good scenario to bring up, and I know you've dealt with it before, Brandon, but last year we met with some clients that were paying close to $800 a month between their two expensive drug plans and their supplement premiums. I mean, we literally went to their home and there was no lights on, no AC on, nothing, because they just could not afford anything. It was bankrupting them. And we could not think of a better scenario where to move them to a Medicare Advantage with a hospital indemnity plan with Heartland. They got approved for it. And, recently in the past probably 4 months, they've had some situations happen where Heartland has been able to help shield them against that and pay that benefit out. And it's been a real easy process. And so that's just kind of one scenario I can think of where this was a better fit, and it saved them between the two hospital indemnity plans and their Medicare Advantage plans. It saved them close to about $7,200 a year in premium. I mean, it literally was getting between the difference of, do I pay my medical or do I eat groceries and turn the lights on? So I know you've seen other stories like that. So the reason I bring that up is because I want people to know that being on a Medicare Advantage plan is not a bad thing if they know the ins and outs of the plan. Right. But this definitely adding this supplement to it, if you will, this hospital indemnity plan just allows them to be protected. Like you said, that one more layer, correct?
Right. Yeah, I think it does add an extra layer of protection. A lot of folks will call it a safeguard or a copay protector, and it does exactly that. It protects you from your copays, certain copays, of course, but all the way up until that maximum out of pocket. And you mentioned it earlier, whether they're 65 years old or 75 years old, unfortunately, the premiums add up when they go that supplement route. And, these days, it just simply is unaffordable for a lot of people to pick up a drug plan, a Medicare supplement policy, a dental plan, a vision plan, and still be able to pay, for groceries, keep the lights on and their house cool. So it's wonderful to have a plan like this out there. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people just don't know it's there.
Sure. And before as we transition into what we call the under 65, those that are non-Medicare, or, I know there's some disability Medicare that you can go on to under 65, but those that are on traditional health insurance plans, let me put it that way. Before we transition to that, if you are getting value out of this video, wherever you're watching this at, please take a moment to like, comment, share this with someone else who you think may need to hear this, because this may be some information that they need to hear, especially if they're on a Medicare Advantage plan or a traditional health plan. So as we transition into the under 65 world, Brandon, let me ask you this, because there's a lot of people that we deal with that are on the Affordable Care Act, formerly Obamacare. And what I have seen over the past couple of years is just really how high some of these deductibles are, and how high some of these co-payments are for when they go inpatient or outpatient procedure. So can you talk a little bit about how a hospital indemnity plan could possibly be a good fit for those that are maybe like on an Obamacare or a Affordable Care Act plan, or maybe just they're on a standalone insurance plan that they've gotten through some other way?
Yeah, I think the nicest thing about this policy is it's super flexible, right? It can be designed to fit around anybody's circumstance. Whatever situation you're in, if you can afford $100 a month, there's a plan for you at $100 a month, right? With a lot of benefits. If all you can afford is $15, $20 a month, you can design a plan for that individual as well to really protect them from their main exposures or really what they see important to cover. So with under 65 health plans, we're seeing a lot of deductibles and the same type of maximum out-of-pockets that we see on Medicare Advantage plans. And the key thing here is to protect our clients from these exposures. So if it's a $6,000 deductible, of course, we don't see big deductibles like that on Advantage plans in the senior market. Not so much really in most markets. But we do see them in the under 65 space. And so we're going to design the plan a little bit differently for that individual in efforts to protect them from those first dollar exposures, first dollar benefits. So we're going to put more benefit up front to where if they do end up in the hospital for just a couple of days, we're getting them as much money as possible for those 2 or 3 days in the hospital early on. That way it's, designed more to provide an upfront benefit than really long-term. But if you can afford it, you can also go with more of a long-term benefit as well. And I'll tell you right now, these plans are really affordable for individuals under 50 years of age. Anybody ages 18 to 49 pays the same rate for a policy like this. And again, the rate locks in at issue age. So you could buy this policy at 49 years old and pay the 49-year-old rate even when you're 60, 70, 80 years old down the road.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing because, like you talked about earlier, in the senior space, supplements are going up, right? And if you can lock it in at a younger age, the earlier you can get it. And I think also a lot of people think that these type of plans are just for older people. Right. And they don't realize even in their own particular, whether it's an ACA plan, Affordable Care Act plan, or, even group coverage. We've helped people that have been on group coverage to their job and $5,000 deductible, high max out of pocket, other copays, in the fine print of the policies. And this Heartland plan has been able to come in and fill in those gaps and shield them against that and pay out those benefits. And that's kind of what you're talking about.
Right, because there's so much involved in these plans that people just don't know is there. For example, in that situation where you're dealing with a large deductible like this, there are benefits you can add to a policy like this for maybe $30 more a month under 50 years of age. And you can add another $2,500 to your first day in the hospital, to where you're not getting a $600 benefit for one day in the hospital. Now you're getting over $3,000 for one 24-hour period in the hospital. So eating up more than half of that individual's deductible one day into their hospitalization.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's why I wanted to talk about this with you, because I knew you were the expert of all experts. So let me just kind of throw something wild out there. What if somebody just, not on Medicare, just can't afford insurance for whatever reason? I mean, this could even be a good standalone plan for them to some degree, right? To at least have some type of benefits in place.
Right. It's important you understand this is not a major medical policy. It's a supplemental health policy. But if this is all you can afford, it's better than nothing.
Sure.
But I do recommend it as a supplement to other insurance. Again, you could have all the insurance in the world and take out a policy like this, and it will pay you cash benefits. You can have no insurance at all and take out this policy, and it will pay cash benefits directly to you in the form of a check. I think that's the greatest part about this plan too, is the claims process. All we need in order to pay a benefit is a copy of the individual's itemized bill, statement of service from the hospital. Or again, if we're paying out a cancer benefit, a lump sum cancer benefit, we need to see proof that they were diagnosed with cancer. But it's very simple, and we'll take those forms via fax or email and pay them directly to the insured.
Yeah, and can you talk a little bit as we get ready to close today? Just wanted to take a few minutes here because we get asked questions about this all the time. Is there anything I can add to my Medicare Advantage or Part C plan? Is there anything I can do to protect myself and shield myself with my Affordable Care Act plan or my standalone health insurance plan? I love the fact that you brought up the claims because, I'm a big champion. I'm a supporter of Heartland. The team is phenomenal. We love working with Heartland, and they take care of our clients, and it's fast and it's efficient. But as we close, give us a little bit of background on Heartland. Why we can trust Heartland. Why that you can believe that Heartland's going to do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah, I would say, and from your experience too, Rob, we're going to pick up the phone anytime your clients need this plan. Yep. We're going to be there to pay those claims. You and Gina, we've worked together for a very long time. Anytime a client files a claim with us, it's crossing my desk or it's crossing our chief of operations desk, and we're going to make sure that it gets processed smoothly and efficiently. So that's our favorite part of the job. Myself and Nick Micheletti over here in the Kansas City office is taking care of clients, and that's what we buy insurance for. Especially when you're navigating the wonderful world of Medicare, you need to work with somebody you can trust, somebody who knows and will advise you on all of your options, and somebody who has experience working with trusted carriers. So you can count on us for that.
Yeah, and definitely it's been A+ for us on that and experience in our clients. And we feel very confident in recommending these plans to them because like you said, the last thing you want is a whole bunch of headaches, especially when something, God forbid, happens that lands them in the hospital, right? They don't want to jump through a whole bunch of red tape and a whole bunch of hoops and can't get a hold of anybody. And that has definitely not been the experience with Heartland and your team and Nick's team and all the people there. So we're greatly appreciative of that. Any final thoughts? Maybe I know I just wanted to take a few minutes today for our audience, for our people, just because I know there's people out there that the whole insurance world is confusing, it's overwhelming, and just wanted to take a moment to break down some of these questions and these that are directed at us. But any final thoughts that you may have that maybe I've overlooked?
Yeah, I think the only thing we really missed today was the fact that when you're dealing with these plans, hospital indemnity policies, there is no network whatsoever. So it's not like you have to stay in a certain network of hospitals in order for the plan to pay. It's not like you have to use a certain cancer specialist or a doctor in order to file a cancer claim with us. We pay benefits indemnity style, which means we pay you a cash benefit just for showing us proof that you had a service done. Mm. No matter your exposure, right? There's no coordination of benefits whatsoever, which is why it works so well for those individuals with other insurances and even no insurance at all. We just pay our portion based on what you're paying premiums for each month. It's like a written contract.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. Well, as we close today, Brandon, thank you for taking a few minutes with us and sharing this with our audience. I know it's going to bring some value to those that are out there watching. And as we close, I'll just say this. If you're looking to get on a Medicare Advantage plan, please definitely give us a call. All of our information will be on the screen or down in the video description. If you're on a current Medicare Advantage plan and just need someone to help review that with you and you don't have a gap plan like this in place, then we definitely need to talk with you and get you all of that information. Or if you're looking to get on an Affordable Care Act plan or some type of other health insurance plan, or you're currently on one, we definitely need to talk with you as well. Once again, the number will be on the screen or our information will be in the video description. And I just want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Brandon, thank you once again for being generous with your time, and we'll see you guys on the next video.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you, everybody.